Councillor Green, because I know Councillor McElduff is running late. So Councillor Green.
Yeah, I've got two apologies here from Councillor McElduff, who will be coming later, and Stevie McCann.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Green. And now Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Just an apology for Councillor Erskine, who's running a wee bit late, so she hopes to join the meeting later. Thank you.
That's perfect, thank you. And Councillor Warrington.
Thank you, Chair. An apology from Councillor Bert Wilson and possibly no season. Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Garrity.
Thank you, Chair. No apologies from ourselves tonight. Garvin, thanks.
Okay, thank you. And any from independents or smaller parties that we know of? Okay, I see Councillor Erskine, you have your hand up. Would you?
Yeah, Chair, it was just to confirm I'm now in the meeting. Sorry, apologies about that.
No problem, thank you. Okay, so that is all the apologies. Okay, so item number 2, to sign the minutes and confidential minutes of the previous meeting held on the 2nd of December 2020, and that was done prior to the start of the meeting. Now we'll move on to item 3, to consider the draft terms of reference for the Environment Services Committee, including delegated authority to the committee, paper A, and I'll bring in the Chief Executive for this one.
Thank you, Chair. Chair members will be aware that at the Policy and Resources Committee last month, you agreed to delegate full council powers to matters pertaining to each of the committees. So at the appendix to the report are the updated terms of reference. Really, there's only one minor change which relates to estate matters, which are also within the remit of this committee. And we've just also clarified the main government department responsibilities as well. So really just looking for a proposer and seconder, Chair, to formally adopt those.
Thank you for that, Alison. Okay, first up we have Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Thank you, Chief Executive, for the report. I'm happy enough to propose the recommendation as stated. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Thompson. And now Councillor McAleer.
Thank you, Chair. No, I think it's a progressive move to do this, so I'm happy enough to support. I'm just wondering, in relation to the appendix attached to it, there's a section on the date and location in terms of hosting of meetings, and it talks about obviously switching between Oma and Enniskillen. I'm just wondering, given I suppose the current meeting arrangements, does there need to be a note in there in relation to the hosting of virtual meetings? Does there need to be something included in that, or I suppose is the previous guidance enough to cover us in relation to that?
Yep, Chair, the previous guidance is sufficient and it covers both the council and all committee meetings, so it would be read in conjunction with this.
That's fine, thank you for that. So yeah, no, happy enough to second that proposal then.
That's perfect. Thank you, Councillor McAleer. And Councillor Thompson, your hand's still up from previous. Okay, that's great. Okay, so that's it, proposed and seconded, and we're all in agreement. Okay, thank you very much. Now we'll move on to item number 4, declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest? Okay, take it by silence that there's no declarations. Sorry, Councillor O'Coffey.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's just to declare an interest under item 6.3 under Estates Matters. I think the issue is under 2.3 of that report. It relates to an application from the Fermanagh Council of Trade Unions for a workers' memorial, and I'm a member of the Trades Council. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor O'Coffey. That'll be noted. Thank you. Now moving on to item 6. Item 6.1, to consider building control and licensing report for the period from 13th of November to the 17th of December 2020, paper B. And I'll bring John in for this, please.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of the report, as the Chair has said, is to provide an update, the monthly update on the work of the building control and licensing service. Part 1 of the report deals with building control and indicates the number of applications approved, accepted, granted, rejected or cancelled in relation to building control. Part 2 of the report lists the number of authorised developments for which we are looking for approval for if a formal application hasn't been made within a month. Part 3 of the report deals with the dual language signage surveys, of which there were 3 considered in this month. We are recommending, in accordance with the policy, that 2 of those have been met, with the third one, the first one actually listed in the table at 2.3.2, Bernice Road, which has not been met in terms of the policy. And for the 2 that are that the conditions have been met, that the Irish translation is included at 2.3.4. The final part of the report is in relation to all licensing matters, and it is attached at Appendix 2. Therefore, Chair, it's recommended that the Council notes the information in this report, including the building control report and the licensing report, approves the institution or the instigation of legal proceedings under Article 21(1) and 2 of the Building Regulations, Order 1979, for the unauthorised works in paragraph 2.2, if an appropriate application is not received within 1 month. And finally, approves the request for the erection of dual language nameplates for Gormley Park and Torsala Road. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that, John. Okay, first up we have Councillor O'Coffey.
I'm happy to propose that be taken as noted.
Okay, thank you for that. That's proposed by Councillor O'Coffey. Councillor McAleer's up next.
Thank you. Yeah, and it was just again hopping off to second that. I'm just of one query in relation to the second appendix that's attached there under item 5. It's the last page just of the document. And there's a note there of unwanted dogs destroyed at owner's request, which makes, I suppose, for quite a harrowing reading if you're an animal lover. I'm just wondering, I suppose, what workarounds or what alternatives are there to obviously having an animal put down just because it's unwanted, as opposed to that? Do we have any alternatives that can be employed there as opposed to having the poor animal put down?
You like to come in there, John?
Yeah, I suppose, Chair, the details, I don't have the details of that precise case in front of me, but I can get them for the member. I would imagine that normally we would bring them to our pound and see if there is any takers for it. The only thing is, I suppose, maybe the reasons for why the owner may want the animal destroyed would be considered in that instance. But I can certainly provide the details on that particular case to the member.
Thank you. Happy enough, Councillor McAleer?
Yeah, I'd appreciate that. Thank you, John.
Thank you. Now, Councillor Donnelly. Sean Donnelly, please.
Thank you, Chair. I welcome the report and I welcome the dual signage on Gormley Park and Torsala Road. I have a query what's the Bernice Road, and it's something that I have mentioned here on numerous occasions, probably in the last month. A number of residents on that road and that area has concerns with the spelling of the road, Bernice Road. I think I pointed out before, I think that the road took its name from a landmark up there called Bernice Lane. And Bernice Lane was referred to a lot, and W.F. Marshall, the poet. And so I would be... two things about it, I spoke to some of the residents on that road, and they would be in favour of the dual signage, but would they feel the correct spelling of Bernice? Now, as I said, I've mentioned it before, and I still think about it, and there's people concerned about it. And how do we go, or how can I go to find out the correct pronunciation, the correct spelling of that road? And I would probably be maybe asked that there will be put back in maybe for a month. That particular part of it be put back for a month or so to have a bit of discussion on it. I propose that. I was at possible.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Don. Would you like to come in on that, John, at all?
Yeah, we can certainly look at the the initial spelling of Bernisk in that regard, as to the history of it and whatever, and I can go back to the member on that. Our policy in relation to the dual language signage is laid out in the street road naming policy, including the dual language element of it, and it is based on the majorities as we have laid out there in the report. If there's specific reason maybe for holding off on it for a month or whatever, we can certainly do that and look at it. If the member wants to contact me directly, we'll look at it further.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Sean. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Much appreciated. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Now, Councillor Maguire's up next.
I'm going to mark it, Carly, and again, it's just more or less for information. There was a couple of streets there applied for the dual language and didn't qualify under our current policy. I was just looking clarification. Under our current policy, there is a time limit to when those streets could reapply. Has anyone that information just to hand? And obviously, given that we're in the process of our Irish language working group, and also everyone's aware that there has been some changes to some councils' attitude towards dual signage, and indeed from the meeting we had lately with other representatives of the Irish language groups in our district, they did have a state that they have an interest in seeing the language being seen is of benefit in their estimation, and is something that is under consideration by the group at the minute. So I'm just wondering what would be the position, or would it take an entire change of the policy then to allow them, if there is a restrictive time limit? From memory, I believe there is something that not within 12 months or something. If somebody could just give me that information, please, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Maguire. Go ahead, John.
Chair, section 1511 of the street road naming policy states that a request for dual language signage is only allowed once within a council term, so it's even longer than a 1 year period. And is supposed to answer the second part of the member's query. If we were to change the percentages or whatever that is included in our current street road naming policy, it would require a total change of the policy itself.
Chair.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Again, just for further clarification, as you say, it would take a complete change of policy. If that change of policy was to take place, then that policy of not within this term would also be nullified. John, would that be correct?
If that's what the members decided upon, yes.
You happy enough, Councillor Maguire?
Yeah, thank you for that clarification, John. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And next up we have Councillor Deehan.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I would like to declare an interest in this item under the Building Control Report, Building Regulations, Applications for Approval, which affects one of my neighbours, Chair. Thank you.
No problem, that's noted. Thank you, Councillor Deehan. And now Councillor Kelly Potter again, please.
Thanks, Garvin. And if Councillor Donnelly's proposal needs a seconder, I'm happy to do that. I'm concerned about, and whilst I know there's apathy, it's hard to motivate people to get stuff to send letters back. The postage and Royal Mail in Mid Tyrone has been of great concern. Some people got the letters after the original date, which they had to resubmit. I know my friend's father missed a hospital appointment simply because the post wasn't there in time. I think that it's something we need to take into consideration, and whilst it might not be good to bend the policy, I think we do need to look into the fact that COVID-19 is having a detrimental effect on many things, such small things such as postage. So happy for us to relook at that one. I think it's, there's, if one more person out of, it probably would have passed. I don't think there's much remit in just letting it go. I think that right now we need to take into consideration the factors that COVID-19 has impacted. So thanks, Garvin.
No problem at all. Thank you. I think the Councillor Donny, you content with John's he's going to go back and look at that, and so we'll let this report be proposed in second. So your issue will be looked at. Councillor Donnelly, is that okay?
That's okay, thank you.
Okay, so we have that proposed and seconded by Councillor O'Coffey and Councillor McAleer, and we're all in agreement. Thank you. Just Councillor Donnelly, your hand's still up. If you could take that down, please. And now we'll move on to 6.2 to consider report on Play Park Strategy 2021 to 2030 Paper C, and I'll bring Mark in for this, please.
Okay, thank you, Chair, and good evening, members. So this report starts off with a really important statement insofar as the Council recognised that modern society's impact on children's lives has the effect of limiting their opportunity to play freely. It is therefore committed to encouraging the creation of high-quality play parks that are accessible, inclusive, free from unacceptable levels of risk, yet stimulating and challenging. And this play park strategy here before you this evening has been developed to provide a strategic direction for the future provision and management of play parks across the council area. And the purpose of this report is really to look to seek members' approval for this play park strategy for the period 2021 to 2030. By way of background, the council currently has around 110 play parks located across the district. It's fair to say that so far the council has considered that the focus up to now has been short-term in nature and primarily based on maintaining the current provision. Whilst play parks are maintained to a fit-for-purpose safety standard, a significant number of them are not up to modern standards and require modernisation. And in addition, as a result of changing demographics over time, we have recognised that some play parks are not placed in the right location to best serve the needs of their communities. So the idea behind this strategy is to provide this strategic direction through a series of principles that are outlined in the report, Chair. So there are actually 9 principles which are the important aspect of this to guide the future provision, transformation and upgrade of play parks across the district. Members will recall that we had a number of workshop sessions that took place before Christmas. So before I go much further, I'd really just like to recognise a lot of the hard work, particularly by Stephen Forrest, our Head of Parks and Open Spaces, and the team there in pulling together the strategy and facilitating those workshop sessions with yourselves that took place before Christmas. So on that basis, I'm not proposing to go through the strategy in the appendix in detail. I'm assuming that, and we hope that it reflects the sentiments and the points that you all had the opportunity to make in those sessions. But I would like to just say a few words really just about the next steps on the basis that if members are happy to approve and adopt this play strategy. So really just to talk through what some of those next steps would be, the next phase after this would very much be to move on to the development of a play plan. And we talk about that later on in the report. And as we've said, it would be undertaken by a dedicated and specialist delivery team. And at the heart of that, it would be following full consultation and participation with our communities and stakeholders. And the purpose of that play plan that would follow on from the strategy would be to ensure an appropriate quantity of high quality play is provided. Play parks are situated at the right locations to serve the whole community. Children of all abilities are provided with inclusive play opportunities which allow them to interact and play with their peers. The provision of play parks is both equality and rurally proofed, which we recognise is really important. And the effective maintenance and ongoing development of the existing play parks will be done so within allocating budgets. So we see this as very much the first step, lots of further consultation and engagement to come in due course. And then just the final point on this, in terms of, I know members following these processes, would be very keen to actually see physical changes and schemes out there on the ground. And really just to highlight that once we've gone through those consultation engagement processes, in practical terms, it's probably going to be the next financial year, 2022-23, when we would really first start to see some significant changes and projects being delivered out there on the ground. Just to bring things to a close, we did receive contact from a number of members before the committee, so it's really reassuring. Members have been going through the strategy very closely, page by page, which is really helpful. I would just like to draw members' attention to page 41 of the strategy, if that's okay. So if you go there to page 41, there's an assessment there by area of the current and proposed facilities that are currently or are proposed to be in place. And eagle-eyed members have just highlighted to us that certainly in the Lisnaskea area, that it is there are 3 current sites. The proposed figure is 2, and that should actually read 3. And under the Maguire's Bridge area, the current figure is 2, and the proposed figure should actually read 2. So really just wanted to highlight those updated those figures, that updated data. And just to conclude then, Chair, so it's recommended that the Council approves the proposed play park strategy for 2021 to 2030 appended to this report. And between myself and we have Stephen Forrest on the line tonight, between the two of us, we'd be very happy to answer any questions members may have. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Mark. And quite rightly when you say there's been quite a lot of work done so far by Stephen and all his team. So I commend him for that. So first up, we have Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and can I thank Mark for the report. I also take this opportunity to thank Stephen Forrest and the team for all of their work thus far. It's quite a hefty document, obviously 57 or 56 pages of a document, plus others. Obviously taking into consideration the fully accessible play areas and recognising disability and autism and all of these issues that are, to the fore at this time, it's very important that we get this right. Currently 110 play parks across the district, and we have to be realistic as to where we move from this. And obviously we'd like to, as Mark has mentioned there, the year 22 to 23, we'd like to see some physical activity on the ground there. And with regard to this has been an ongoing project for quite a while. And with that, I'll leave my comments there, Chair, and I'm happy enough to propose the recommendation as listed. Thank you, Chairman.
That's great. Thank you very much, Councillor Thompson. Councillor O'Coffey up next.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. First of all, I want to commence by congratulating Stephen Forrest on his work on this, and it is notwithstanding my commentary below that I do want to recognise that he has brought a particular emphasis to engaging with the community and so on. But overall, I still have to say I am opposed to this policy as a whole. I have to also say this is a far better document than we were faced with almost 2 years ago as incoming councillors. That document foretold or anticipated the closure of 28 play parks. We're now facing the closure of 13, which is still 13 too many as far as I'm concerned. The number of play parks in Enniskillen was initially planned to fall by 5 from 15 to 10. It is now set to fall by 1 overall. I don't agree with cutting play parks. I believe that this council should continue to provide these vital facilities, and I think that it's very important that they're provided close to where the community lives, especially if we are to engage with socially deprived and also children who come from households without car access and so on. overall, then I have to say I'm opposed to any plan which sees an overall reduction in the number of play parks, and in particular, I would highlight the fairly severe impact that is under this for the Omagh town area, which will lose 9 play parks, more than 1/3 of the total. I have to say, the other thing I want to really pose is that my understanding was that before this would proceed, that there would be a consultation with the community. It looks to me as this is going to proceed, and then there's going to be a consultation with the community on the basis of the numbers that are in the report. So where the numbers indicate that there's going to be a reduction, the community doesn't really have much of a choice. So it makes a bit of a mockery of the whole point of having a consultation. So I think that the consultations should come before any decision to move play parks. I think this is very sensitive. There is a need to move play parks where their children are, as opposed to where they were. But overall, I think that should happen in the context of no reduction to the overall numbers, because that's driven by an austerity budget priority. So although I do recognize there's increased investment in the play parks that are going to be retained, I do recognize that there will be additional facilities developed. But overall, because this involves a drastic reduction, in particular in the Omagh town area, to play parks, I cannot support it and I have to oppose it. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Coffey. Your dissent is noted. Would Mark or Stephen like to come in on that at all?
Through the chair, thank you, Councillor Coffey, for your comments there. I suppose in the consultation side of things, there was extensive consultation undertaken by the consultant that was brought in. They both looked at organisations such as Early Years, Disability NI, Education Authority and Play Board. In addition to that, there was an online survey that was undertaken along with Active Together strategy that went out to 7 evening meetings in each DEA that accumulated 594 responses from the public. In addition, then also the workshops were facilitated for the members. I think it's fair to point out that Mark alluded to there that there's going to be extensive consultation with communities with regard to the next step, which is going to be critical in ensuring that we deliver the play parks to the correct locations. The number that was set, if the member can recollect, was set at the last committee meeting in September that brought this strategy, in which the middle ground option was selected, which was between the two options of retaining 110 and actually transforming 28. So that was the basis in which this was formed, which is done collectively on council agreement and approval. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Stephen. That's perfect. Thank you. Councillor Swift's up next.
Yeah, Goramagat Cahirlock, and I too wish to commend Stephen Forrest particularly on all of his work. He certainly brought his own flavour and his own special ingredients to this whole play park strategy, and we had a very in-depth, robust, worthwhile and enjoyable, I might add, workshop meeting in our Erne West DEA whereby all of our issues were thrashed out and our concerns, and I suppose a lot of which Stephen on the night most certainly alleviated. So Mark quite rightly commended him at the very beginning. So I just want to say I'm happy to second the approval and adoption of this. I definitely have embraced the entire strategy, and I think, and having lived and looked at play parks in the area for quite a number of years, and embracing that part where they've only been maintained to a fit for purpose standard, and I want everywhere to be at the gold standard. There are play parks which are in an abysmal condition, and they have less equipment in them than there were in my day, which isn't today or yesterday, I might add, and they don't lend for any exciting play on any level for child, middle-age, young and old alike. So I think the entire strategy is much more embracing, taking into consideration the importance of play and why we even endeavoured to go down this route in the first place. You know, particularly focusing on the play needs and encompassing indeed our biodiversity, bringing nature into it, and all of those plans. And we had exciting plans for the Erne West area, you know, the 3 big play areas, you know, the talk about of a big skating area, skateboard area. Because it now has become an Olympic Games. So I think some of the Erne West councillors are going to become competitors for that if they get up to speed, and include myself in that. But all joking aside, everything being identified on the basis of need, and I am satisfied at this point that indeed our, I suppose, dispersed area, our rurality, and indeed the deprivation area that I represent, we want to bring everything now up to a much better standard. What we're going to have in future will be much better and forward thinking. No longer will the do rightly for our constituents, and people do want more, and they don't want to have to travel for it either. And I note all the statistics have been very well put together about, you know, who has access to a car or a van. You know, whilst we have access to vehicles, but we only have vehicles in the Fermanagh area, not as a luxury, they're a necessity to get anywhere. So I think that has been well considered too, and indeed all the importance of the learning and skill development for children in the area of play has to be great. And it was just the next steps, and I think you've pretty much covered on that, and I hear you loudly and clearly. The projects aren't likely to be delivered until 2022-23, which is understandable. But I'm just wondering, Stephen and Mark, whoever of you wants to answer, when we talk about the next steps, the consultation again with the wider community, basing them with the vision that we have, when do we foresee that happening? Now, I know none of us have a crystal ball to know when, you know, it's going to be safe to do so, but are we hoping, are we on the high end of hopeful that we'll have consultations completed within the next 4 to 6 months? And that's me finished. Guramagat.
Thank you, Councillor Swift, and thank you for seconding also. Would Mark or Stephen like to come in and answer that, please?
Yeah, thanks again through the chair. Thank you for your comments, Councillor. In terms of your question with regard to consultations, again, we perceive these to be rolling out as soon as possible as a priority once we've established the play delivery team. I envisaged that they would be on the format of workshops, so depend on the current restrictions, obviously, and how quickly we can roll them out. And then obviously involving the other stakeholders, again, it's how quickly we can get them programmed and rolled out. As I said before, this is going to be key to the whole delivery of the plan, because it's critical that the consultation is undertaken to establish exactly what is needed within the principles of what has been identified in the strategy. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Stephen. Okay, before I take any further speakers, I see there's a call-in user too. Could you please identify yourself?
Hello?
Yeah.
Councillor Clark here.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Sean. Okay, now we'll move on to Councillor Swift. Could you take your hand down, please? Councillor McAleer.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, and likewise, I'd just like to put on the record my thanks to Stephen. I know the setup or arrangement of these meetings was on site, and it wasn't possible to hold them virtually. So, just given the current, I suppose, pandemic, I didn't feel comfortable attending. But I caught up with Stephen. He made every effort to walk me through it and to bring me up to speed. So, I'd just like to put on record my thanks for that. Just first off, in relation to the vision that was spoken about so eloquently there earlier on, I think there's actually a typo in it, and it's on page 2 of Appendix 1, where it actually repeats the word "are" twice in the same sentence. So it's where people are and places are. So I presume that should just be where people and places are, but I think that's fairly easy rectified. I think it's very important reading through the document that there's a note made that children of all abilities are provided with inclusive play opportunities which allow them to play and interact with their peers. And I think that is massively important, and I think it's something that is echoed and repeated through the document. It's something that needs to be emphasised. Again, in relation to the paper C and item 4.2, the good relations aspect, it notes a number of bodies that have been contacted and discussed with prior to this, including Disability NI. It also notes that further local consultation will be fundamental and a key requirement in the development of the play plan. So I'm just wondering, in relation to the queries brought up by Councillor O'Coffey, if that really just to emphasise the importance of that, and I suppose also as a member of the Disability Advisory Group within the council here, I suppose that would be a cornerstone or one of the go-to committees maybe that would be considered contacted on in relation to this current project. Working through the document, I think the fourth appendix actually explicitly states that only a quarter of play parks currently offer at least one item of accessible equipment. So I think that's without doubt something that we have to look at. Encouraging again that children and adults with disabilities and older people with dementia are specifically singled out.
Sorry to cut across you, Councillor McLeod. You have a minute left. There's quite a number of speakers.
No worries. That's all right. I'll
Okay.
rush through the rest of it here. I think it's encouraging that my area of Mid Tyrone retains its 13 play parks. I suppose we are quite lucky that we have Destination Play Park and NEAP within our area. I would like to just ask the question maybe in relation to the new or the proposed new Camoan Play Park in relation to the type and location maybe of that specifically. And finally, just in relation to the trees and vegetation aspect of green spaces, which is very important, just to emphasise or ensure that the work will be carried out with our biodiversity team, and obviously that native species and wildflowers will be encouraged in those areas. Thank you, Chair.
That's great. Thank you, Councillor McLeod. Would you like to come in, Stephen? Are you there, Stephen?
Sorry, unmute there through the chair. Yeah, just to reiterate, the consultation process is going to be critical to this whole strategy. Disability NI, yes, they will be included because, as the reference makes, there's a lot with regards to accessibility and inclusivity that has to be included. The percentage of only 25% is quite shocking, to say the least. And just to say on that, there's been recent grant funding that has been gained for 30,000 for the provision of basket swings, which will help as a starting point as part of this whole process. And again, these have to be taken delivery of before March. With regard to the specifics of the Camoan ward, again, we haven't drilled into the details. This strategic look has really looked at just numbers. And again, it'll be through consultation and that process that will decide where the most preferable area is identified, or site or location. And again, the type, it will be a local equipped area of play, of which there'll be a specific suite of equipment identified for that particular standard or hierarchical grade of play park. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much, Stephen. Now, next up, Councillor Garrity.
Thank you, Chair, and I'll be super quick because I know you have a lot of speakers there, but just to say, like everyone else, thanks to Mark and Stephen, and particularly Stephen, who gets extra jobs when he arrives in the area, and Julie completes them ASAP for us. We did a great workshop in West Tyrone, and I think it all depends how different people will look at things in different ways. I would always have my glass half full, so to speak, and I'm, as a parent as well as a local councillor, parents and our children want quality over quantity, and that's what this hopefully will deliver in the long term. As outlined by Stephen there, this is just the start of the process on Mark, and there'll be very much great engagement with the community at large, children, groups, everyone, and that will form how it progresses to the future. And that, I think this is very much welcomed, and I have to congratulate them on the work and how simple they made the workshops for us to understand the rationale for some of the decisions that have to be taken, that maybe when you just put them in a headline don't read well, but when you understand the background in it, it makes perfect sense. So thanks them again, and thank you, Chair.
Great, thank you, Councillor Garrity. And just before taking next speaker, I see Councillor O'Coffey's put in that there's also a typo, Oma is spelled wrong, so we've took note of that, thank you. Now, Councillor Erskine.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I was just to come in firstly to thank Stephen and indeed also Alan Mitchell, who provided as well some of the figures during those individual DEA workshops on this, which was the data that has been collected by the council in relation to this is incredible. And I just want to thank them for working on this. This has been something that's been going on before I was in the council chamber. And indeed, it's great to see that community engagement is going to be as well at the heart of this. My just 2 points that I wanted to raise, and Councillor McAleer was sort of touching on this, and it's something I feel quite strongly about, is the fact that we do have spaces that are inclusive and accessible for not only children these days, but also our adults, because dementia friendly is very, very important. And I know, speaking as a granddaughter of someone who has dementia, play therapy is very, very important for those people. And I know that I've in the past spoken to Stephen about this, and it's about future proofing for the future for both our children and our adults going into the future. And I just want to thank the team for the work that they have done in relation to this. And Stephen, could I maybe just ask through the chair that dementia friendly is going to be as well at the heart of all of this as well. I know, you know, Gorchin and places like that, we have wonderful spaces now for even adults too. So just to put that on public record, I suppose. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councillor Erskine, do you want to come in, Stephen?
Yeah, thanks again, through the chair. Yeah, yes, and I think that's been alluded to in the report in a few places, just the importance that play is beyond just children. And also we have to look at, you know, our elderly and the less fortunate people that suffer from debilitating diseases such as dementia. They will be form part of the consultation as the dementia groups as such. And again, it was mentioned, I think, at the last and identified at the last council proposal that there would be closed periods investigated as part of the management of play parks going forward to basically for children with autism and for people with dementia, so that they can enjoy the space in a protected and safe environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. And now Councillor O'Reilly.
Thank you, Chair. And like other councillors, I want to commend the team for bringing us this strategy, and particularly commend Stephen for not alone this strategy, but his ongoing works as head of Parks and Open Spaces, timely responses, as other councillors says to many issues, and always comes back to you, which is very important for local representatives, that they can relay solutions to people that have brought questions to them, which makes people feel and citizens feel like their issues are being listened to by the council. That said, Chair, I think that overall we have a good framework here for going forward. We need to see our play parks enhanced in many respects to get away from the image of just children at play to area spaces for all citizens, and particularly in light of COVID and all the rest, when people haven't access to gyms and all the rest of it, we need to be able to see our council encouraging people to use them for Tai Chi or use those open spaces, as well as the specific equipment for all diversities. Can I say that no matter what we do with this play strategy, the ongoing maintenance and the replacement costs and all of that has to be critical to the success, and we must ensure that them funds are there, and indeed try to encourage communities to be able to get funding, provide funding that can provide improvements to this. Insofar as the 3 destination play parks, we have 2 of them in and around Oma, and we have a very big county of Fermanagh stretching for many, many more miles than the distance between the two destination parks in Omagh. And I would certainly ask that that is looked at again for the actual spread of destination play parks. And with that, Chair, sort of, and other issues there, and not least around the consultation. I think the consultation is very, very important, but I don't believe that we can
sorry, Councillor Ray, sorry to cut across you with 30 seconds just to keep things right.
I don't believe that we can sign off on a strategy here tonight and then ask people to give their views and comments so that we may take them on board. If we sign off tonight, we're effectively saying, well, here, give your views, but we have already made our decision. So with that in mind, Chair, I propose that we would put back the signing off of this until we actually take cognizance of the views of the consultation, and then be able to, if necessary, incorporate any views or ideas into our strategy as we go forward. Doesn't make sense to do it any other way, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Ray, I'm going to have to cut across you there again.
That's the proposal, Chair.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Riley. Councillor Curry, would you like to come in?
Yes, Gormagada Cairley, and yes, also just to echo what everyone said, thanks so much to all the team who have put so much work and conversed with us and answered a lot of questions over all of this. Yes, I am on the same lines as Corey O'Reilly there. I think it's really good. We've come a long way from the original options, and there's been a lot of work done there by Stephen and the team. This is a great framework, but I don't think that we're actually there yet. I do think that more meaningful engagement from the community is vitally important, and I know that the community was consulted on a DEA basis, and I would just suggest that that actually it's done on an even tighter basis than that, because as members will be aware, our north stretches from Enniskillen the whole way to Beleek and out nearly as far as 5 Mile Town, a huge area. And the consultation took place in Irvinstown, and that meant that a lot of people weren't able to actually take part in that. So I'll second Corey O'Reilly's proposal. I don't want to sound like the grammar police either, but there are quite a few typos actually in the document. So I think just a proofread, but page 1, I think Corey O'Coffey said it there, Omagh. Page 2, there's actually 2 typos there. Page 35 and page 46, and I think there was a couple of others as well. I'd just like to say also the parks identified for transformation, that's something I think is very good. But one place in the report, it talks about considered, and in another place it says it will take place, and I think it's just very important to have that tied down. We do want these to be, you know, green spaces, nature, biodiversity, and, you know, real places I think that the community can enjoy. I'm not sure it's totally tied down in this document, so I'll leave it there, Chair. There are a couple of other things, but I think if we can come back to this, I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. And you seconded Councillor O'Reilly, is that correct? Yeah.
I did.
Okay, thank you. I think we'll just might go back to Stephen just for clarity. That this doesn't really sign off tonight, isn't that correct, Stephen? Because when we go to the consultations, it'll have to come back to us anyway. Is that correct?
Again, through the chair, well, the proposal was to get this signed off tonight to try and get it passed and approved by council. Consultations would establish the specifics. I think it was considered to go to the level of consultation to start identifying the park specifically for transformation. It's just, it would be too onerous in trying to get this passed. Again, the point is this is a strategic document that identifies the numbers as agreed by council at 97. Basically, what we have to do now is agree as and where. And again, we're not in a position to do that tonight, to identify the specific sites. And again, that has to be done through consultation. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Okay, now Councillor Feely.
Thank you, Gavin. Thanks for letting me in there. And I'll be brief because a lot of stuff has been discussed there. No, funny, I would be inclined to agree with my two colleagues there and Councillor Coffey also. But firstly, I'd want to thank Stephen for the workshop we had. Really enjoyed it. And funny, it's the last time that I would have seen my colleagues, the other round West councillors, and we had a good meeting and you kind of missed the crack, and that's the last time I've seen. But we did enjoy it. And I did bring these couple of things up that day as well. And I'm not kind of being selfish or anything, but it's three of the parks that would be closing would be in Erin West, you know. And I know that there'll be small parks and on housing estates, and there mightn't be as many young people there. But I would be hoping that, take for instance, that people living in them housing estates would all get somewhere what to do with. Well, I just wonder how would it work? Would each person living in the house get a letter to say it was closing, and what their thoughts on it would be, and say they weren't happy with if closing, what would happen then, you know? So I just think that the consultation should have been done beforehand as well, you know, just in case then people wasn't happy. And what Siobhan was saying there as well, what would be done with the green area, that it definitely would be left the green area, maybe with a park bench on it, or as Stephen was saying the day of the workshop, and maybe the wee fruit trees planted or apple trees and stuff like that there. So we just want to have a definite like that would be done, that wouldn't be done after, if you know what I mean, you know. So I'm just wondering what way would the consultation with them people living in them houses where they think they're closing the parks down, and the people that didn't want them closed, what had happened then? So I just wouldn't be that happy. I'd rather we put it back. So I agree with Thomas and Siobhan there. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Feely. Councillor Deehan.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I want to thank Mark for presenting this report to us. It's very comprehensive and makes excellent reading. And also sincere thanks to Stephen for hosting the workshops. And he even stayed late on a dark autumn evening for a mop-up session for the OMA councillors. So thanks for that. It's very appropriate that this council is investing in play facilities. What is proposed here strategically is very good. It's excellent. It recognises the importance of play in a child's development. And it also recognises that our investment in play facilities will pay dividends for children and adults with disabilities and for people suffering from dementia and so on. That's very much to be welcomed. It's a life-enhancing development. Now, I know that the status quo cannot be maintained because our current play facilities are not fit for purpose. They don't meet the standards of the modern era. They don't provide for children with disabilities. So I welcome these changes. Now, Chair, I am a little bit concerned regarding the proposed reduction in play park facilities in OMA from 26 to 17, a drop of 9 facilities. Admittedly, we do have the Grange play park, which is state-of-the-art destination playgroup. But as other councillors have alluded to, access to play facilities is very important, because a lot of the play that takes place can occur in an impromptu fashion, so that if the rain stops for half an hour, mum or dad will say, let's go out to the play park for 10 or 15 minutes. So it's not really jumping into the car and driving for 10 or 15 minutes. Accessibility, easy accessibility is key. So, you know, OMA is the largest centre of population in this district council area, We have a lot of housing developments which are scattered all over the town, and accessibility is key. I think community consultation is key, so that we can look at transforming facilities where the demographics of the area have changed significantly, but that has to be with close community consultation. Otherwise, I cannot accept it. I am of the view that we do not finalise this report tonight, but rather that we bring it back at a later date when we have a closer examination of the demographics and the needs in a particular area. And my question, Chair, really relates to the local and easy accessibility of play facilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Deehan. Look, come in there, Stephen.
Yeah, thank you again through the chair. I suppose I refer back to the previous paper that was taken, in which we had agreement and approval to proceed on the basis of the middle ground option. We took on board completely the factors of the number of children, the deprivation, the child poverty, and the households without access to cars. And these were factored into a mathematical model, which was, basically to present a fair and equitable provision of play parks across the district based on numbers, with these factors taken into account. So clearly what's presented tonight took that on board. And again, the consultation, back to that process, absolutely, it's critical to establishing as to where and when, but based on the numbers that we've already agreed to. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Now, Councillor Keenan.
Thank you, Chair. Well, although this is a very good presentation, the fact of the matter is that 12% of the play parks that are currently available for children to play in are going to be closed permanently. And I understand that there has been surveys done and equations calculated, but that won't mean much to the children who are getting their local play park removed. I also understand that some areas are set to gain play parks and some are set to lose play parks. But I don't think we should be getting into the game of playing one area off against the other. Cuts are cuts and closures are closures. And as far as the public consultation, Tomas has already said, I also believe that the consultation should be done before any decision is made to close any play park. And although it seems my own area now is not losing out, which I'm glad to hear, as it stands with the lack of community consultation, plus the fact that there's still going to be 13 play parks closed, I can't support this plan.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Keenan. Councillor Feely, Deehan, could you take your hands down, please, from previous? Now, Councillor Kelly, Catherine, please.
Hey, thanks, Garvin. First, it's a really good report, Mark. Thank you for it, and especially thanks to Stephen. It was great working with you, and when you come out to Carrickmore and Craigan, I really felt like you listened to what myself and my party colleagues had to say when we met with you. I think it's very important. That we have top quality parks with good equipment, with open spaces, with items such as Councillor Erskine mentioned. I think all of those things are very, very important. The provision of parks is one of the most important things we will do as a council, for all the stated reasons. Councillor Deehan alluded to health and mental well-being and all of those things. I am a little uncomfortable though with the lack of community consultation as well. So I support my colleagues in what they have said tonight, but notwithstanding that, I think it is a really good report, and it's definitely a step in the right direction, and thanks very much for all the work.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. Now, Councillor Fitzgerald, is it?
Yes, me. I don't know, it hasn't come up there as my name. Yes, thanks a lot, Chair, for letting me in. Appreciate, Stephen, all the work that you and your team has carried out. I know when we all first met, everybody was shocked and horrid and aghast about the amount of money that was taken to update current play parks. A lot of them are beyond their use. Some of them aren't being used. Poor equipment, it just wouldn't entice any child to go and play with them at all. So it's great to see that there has been changes made, but with a few of the other previous councillors, I feel that this has come possibly out as quite a shock to some members of the public, and alarm bells will be ringing to see what people are losing, and especially in the Oma Town area where there seems to be a large drop in play parks. On chatting to Stephen before, I can understand his reasoning. Some of them now are in areas of where there's a high elderly population, and maybe it's more of a gathering point for antisocial behaviour, that there's equipment there that's way beyond use. Nobody uses them because of the elderly demographic or whatever. Just so I feel that maybe have sprung out too much. I felt that in those areas who was going to lose anything, they should have been consulted first, had went round and said, listen, this is what you have, would you like this proposal? And I think if they see what they're going to get in their area, it would have been a better starting off block from ourselves. Just on that, with the green spaces, if people are losing their play park, my understanding is that it won't be taken away. It won't be a car park. It will be put into a nice green area with possible fruit trees. Well, it'll be organic apple trees, you know, maybe like a little footpath, maybe with thyme bushes and maybe with a seating area in it for the elderly folks. So that might be maybe more suited to a lot of people when they see it. Just appreciate all the work, and I really feel that our destination play parks is going to be a huge success. We can see the one in Gorgon, the large number of people coming to it. The one in the Grange, which is going to be extended with more equipment, I think is going to be amazing, and in a scale. And I also feel that maybe they should get another one as well. And also on that, it's great to see disabled equipment coming in, and it should be accessible and inclusivity for all people. But maybe one's a bit like a minimum of one, maybe a minimum of two. At least it gives a bit of variety for children of all ages and all abilities, so that they can be using it. But yeah, it's good. I think a wee bit further to go, and I would like to see it signed off tonight. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry. On that, Stephen. Sorry, Garvin. On that, it was just one councillor had spoke before, but they had wanted to see if it is. Can it be more flexible? That if this is passed tonight, there's some play parks remain in a town or village that may be better suited in a different area of the town or the village right now. Can it be made possible maybe to get those moved at a later stage, or has it to be done now, or is it just that there can be maybe a bit of movement, bit of flexibility on it? Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to come in there, Stephen, on that?
Yeah, thank you. And again, through the chair, I think exactly just on the again, this is a strategic document looking at the numbers that previously had been agreed. The actual location of them is critical, because the demographics, as we know, have changed in the intervening period from when they were originally developed. So that's critical for ensuring that we have the play parks in the correct locations. The question on transformation, which was a very good point that came out of the workshops, was that the areas would be retained, which was coming out of these workshops, to say was the areas would be retained as green spaces, because demographics will change again, and some of the areas that, whilst they mightn't be suitable now at the moment, i.e. they've got a lot of retired people around them, that in the next 10 to 20 years, that quite possibly the children are back with families, and then that gives the council the provision of going back in with these sites and then transforming them back to play areas. And this flexible approach is going to be critical to the strategy, because it's a long-term vision that we have, and it's a matter of having that play team there to appreciate and move with the times. And you can see from the figures that we have actually put in, there's quite significant monies identified for both the maintenance and also capital investment that has to be ongoing. Whilst we've got significant initial capital investment to bring them up to a standard, it's critical that we put this into these play parks as a rolling programme to ensure that the standard is maintained. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. And before I take the next speaker, could Councillor Keenan, Kelly and Fitzgerald please take their hands down. Now, Councillor Irvine.
Thank you very much, Chair. Look, the engagement that the officers provided in regard to the compilation of the strategy was excellent. And the unfortunate thing is, it's been alluded to by a lot of members, demographics have changed, and the emphasis actually in regard to what we're trying to provide, both to the youth and to another range of population, has changed as well. And things cannot stay static. People may say there are winners and losers, What I would like to say is that all the population right across the board will actually get something that they can go to and use. And we thrashed all this out. So myself and our party colleagues are happy to run with the excellent document that Stephen and Mark have provided. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Irvine. Now, Councillor Warrington.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I'm not going to say much. My party colleague has said basically on the main topic. I just basically, not everybody is going to be happy with this. There's going to be areas that people are going to lose out. But at the end of the day, there's no point in having play parks that are not up to standard and have aging equipment or whatever. I certainly am more interested in the provision for disabled people, and certainly I know that the Disability Advisory Group, which I'm chair of, has been mentioned here tonight, and I know certainly we will give all the help we can on that part of it. I know we have some very active members from the disabled community in our group and who have some great ideas, and will come up with some great suggestions. So certainly look forward to that. But just before I end, just to say a thanks to the team and thanks to Stephen and Alan for putting up this very comprehensive report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Warrington. Now, Councillor Gannon.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I have to thank Stephen and everyone involved on their work on this strategy. I believe it's been years in the making, maybe 5 years or more, I've been told. And I think not too long ago we did kind of as a council agree on this approach that is outlined in this strategy. The concerns are being raised tonight, which are fair enough, but I think we kind of agreed to this approach. Obviously, the workshops I think were excellent. Personally, I got a lot out of it, and as has been said, and I'm pleased that the strategy does protect rural areas. It's got that clause in it, and that kind of qualitative clause, which is something that we brought up when we agreed this way forward previously, and we brought up about protecting our rural areas. Which is a positive thing. I do think the strategy will be kind of a huge investment in our play areas and then obviously for our children and young people with upgrades to really good quality, because unfortunately some just aren't up to standard at the minute, and we'll get them up to good quality and real enjoyable experience for the kids. And I'm glad to hear people still talking about a skate park as well, and that's something that's going to be investigated in future to cater that slightly older age group. Obviously looking forward to community engagement. I think that's going to be key in making the final decisions. Councillor O'Reilly has made a proposal there which is interesting, and it raises a question in my own mind, and maybe Stephen might be able to answer it. Obviously we're going to a community consultation now to decide the specifics of this, the where, the how and the what, so to speak, in terms of transformation as well, because I think Stephen's mentioned about flexibility there, which is good. So it's not really closure, as many are saying. It's a transformation and can be changed back, which and some really good potential uses in there, such as green areas and fruit trees and benches and all, which do cater to all age groups as well. So essentially my question is this: the numbers of play parks and things like that in each area, and the locations that are laid out in the strategy, after the community consultation that's being spoken about, is there potential for these numbers to be amended slightly if we find a need that we haven't previously identified through our community consultation? So essentially, is there scope after, if we were to approve this tonight, that there may be able to be those changes that I think some councillors are concerned about? Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Gann. Do you want to come in there, Stephen?
Yeah, thank you, and through the chair. Yes, a very valid point. That I mean, we've been basically working on numbers here, but we've brought the qualitative element into it to establish where the 97 parks and how they're going to be spread throughout the ward on a fair and equitable basis. The consultation will, I'm sure, throw up things that we haven't considered. And as part of the consultation process, yes, we have to take that on board. But what's key to this all is the actual journey that we take the play plan on, where we do go through a series of reports regular back to council. And again, the approval is on the basis of what the principles are on this strategy. But again, if there are things identified, then yes, we consider them and it's brought before council for approval. Thank you.
Thank you.
Glad to hear there's scope for change. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Stephen. Okay, and the final speaker on this is Councillor Green. I know there's a couple of speakers they're looking in after, but they've been in previous. So this will be the final speaker on this, and then we'll come to conclusion. Councillor Green.
Thank you, Chair. I was just things in the rollout of this, Stephen. Is it possible that we would consider that the rural areas would be maybe prioritised in the strategy of rolling out the implementation of this, because people out in the rural areas always tend, and even during COVID we have seen this always be the last for anything to be done. So I would like to think that the more rural you are, possibly this time would be at the top of the list of being done rather than at the bottom of it, given that these play parks are one of the few facilities people has out in rural Fermanagh and Tyrone. The other thing I wanted to say was to mention about what Councillor Riley had mentioned on destination parks. I agree with that about the two in the Omagh area, one in Fermanagh. I think they possibly could be used as in tourism locations as an attraction. I think we shouldn't just be nailed down on having three of them. I think that possibility should be opened if there's a good case made for another one in some tourism place. Something like the Gorgon Glens and the Fermanagh being very I think these would be a great addition. I'm glad to see the from one to two. I'm delighted with that, and it'll be interesting to see where the second one will be going, and hopefully the first one about the location, one that's already there. Also, I was chatting to you earlier in Listen Ski. I'm delighted to know that was a typo that I think that could have been or would have been accepted in Listen Ski to go down to 2. So I'm delighted with that. It's a very good report. I sometimes being a skeptic, I'd be a wee bit wary of signing off on anything until everything's nailed down, because previously on some reports and not that long ago, things be nailed down with, or things be passed with the promise that we can look back at it again in the future, and then when we go to look at it again in the future, we're told no, you've passed that, so it can't be looked at. So I would agree with Thomas's proposal. So that's all I have to say on that.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Green, do you want to come in again, Stephen, finally?
Yeah, thank you. And through the chair, yes, with reference to the needs in rural provision, there's a section identified on page 47 there, where the play plan has a work priority set out. And you can obviously see that the highest priority will be safety and risk management. And then inclusivity and accessibility, followed by need to address gaps in rural provision. So that has been identified in the report as quite a high priority. In terms of the destination play park provision, it was based, this report and strategy has been based largely on what the consultant had provided for us. Now, having said that, we know that in the future grant monies will become available, like, for example, what happened in Gorgon Glens. So we can't discount that there will be the possibility of future provision of destination play parks identified at certain key strategic parts in the district that perhaps don't have that level of service provision. So whilst we're saying this strategy clearly sets out the numbers that we're trying to work with at this point in time, it forms a strong working basis for which we can work and develop. And it's important to note as well, I think, that the strategy is to run to 2030. That's 9 years. A lot can change in 9 years. But at least with having this strategy, I feel that we've got a good, strong starting position. Because time does roll on with things. And again, along with my colleagues, we'd be very keen to get rolling with it. And again, we have that flexibility built in, that things aren't set in stone, but it's a strong starting point, I would suggest. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that, Stephen. And that concludes the good discussion on the whole issues. But initially it was proposed and second proposed by Councillor Thompson and seconded by Councillor Swift. But I don't think we're going to be in any agreement. I'll just bring the Chief Executive in now.
No, thank you, Chair. Chair, it was just really to conclude on Stephen's comments, and it was maybe just by way of clarification on a couple of the other matters that had been raised. I think that some of the detail points that members have referenced and where some concerns have been expressed will largely be resolved in the play plan piece of work. I think, as Stephen has indicated, the intention this evening was to build on the Council's previous agreement and really to allow the key principles to be established so that we can then work on the detail. There are a number of very straightforward things that the Council has asked us to do. There are obviously some that will be more complicated and they will take time. I think that the duration of this strategy, and indeed even to get it up and running, even if we did get agreement this evening, we're probably about 12 to 14 months away from seeing progress on the ground. So certainly I think there will have to be inbuilt flexibility, and we will have to respond to new changes and challenges along the period of time. The other element specifically to the destination play areas, Chair, I would highlight that this is something that is becoming a potential funding focus for Peace Plus. So certainly if there are opportunities for us to avail of over the next 24-36 months by way of funding, we will do so. But our position to do that will be greatly enhanced by having a strategy from which to work. So in summary, Chair, really what I would say, I think a number of the concerns that members have expressed, and in particular the consultation piece, will certainly be very fully addressed in the context of preparing the play plan. I don't think approving the strategy this evening inhibits you for making future decisions and indeed amending this work as we go forward.
Thank you for that, Alison. So basically this is not being signed off or sealed tonight. So
yeah, what we're signing off this evening, Chair, or seeking your approval for, is the strategic direction to allow us now to embark on the detailed work that's needed to underpin the investment for the next 10 years.
Okay, thank you for that. So on that basis, on the initial proposal by Councillor Thompson and Councillor Swift, seconded by Councillor Swift, would we all be in agreement to move forward with this, as the Chief Executive has said, and Stephen also, that we will not be, it will not be signed and sealed? Would we be all in agreement?
No.
No.
Agreed.
Okay,
No.
so there's
No. Chair,
agreement.
can we have a recorded vote, please?
Yeah, recorded vote, no problem. So we'll take the first proposal first, which is Councillor Thompson, second by Councillor Swift. Okay, so we'll start off with Councillor Armstrong.
For.
Councillor Baird.
For.
Councillor Blake.
For.
Councillor Buchanan.
For.
Councillor Campbell.
Against.
Councillor Clark. You still on, Sean? No, okay. Councillor Coyle.
For.
Councillor Curry.
And I against.
Councillor Deehan.
Against.
Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly.
Against.
Councillor Sean Donnelly.
Against.
Councillor Stephen Donnelly.
For.
Councillor Keith Elliott.
For.
Councillor Deborah Erskine.
For.
Councillor Anthony Feely.
Again.
Councillor Anne-Marie Fitzgerald.
Nay and against.
Councillor Gannon.
For.
Councillor Garrity.
For, Chair.
Councillor Green.
Against.
Councillor Irvine.
For, Chair.
Councillor Keenan.
Against.
Councillor Kelly.
Against.
Councillor, was that Catherine? That was Catherine, sorry.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Councillor Podrington Kelly.
Against.
Councillor McGuire.
In Aidan, against.
Councillor McAleer.
Against.
Councillor McCaffrey.
And I against.
Councillor McCann.
Against.
Councillor McCloughery.
For.
Councillor McElduff.
Against in Aidan.
Councillor McPhillips for. Councillor O'Coffey.
Against cuts at play parks.
Councillor O'Reilly.
Against.
Councillor Rainey.
For.
Okay.
For.
Councillor Robinson.
For.
Councillor Smith.
For.
Councillor Swift.
For.
Councillor Thompson.
For.
Councillor Thornton.
For.
Councillor Warrington.
For.
Councillor Wilson.
Apology for Councillor Wilson.
Oh, he's absent, okay. I'll go back. Is Councillor Clark back on? No. No, okay, bear with me 1 second. Okay, thank you for that, members. Okay, so that is 24 and 18 against, so that carries, and the other motion falls, or the other proposal, sorry. Okay. So now we move on to 6.3, to consider report on estate matters, paper D, and that's Mark, I believe.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So, as we said at the outset, under the revised terms of reference, estates matters that formerly went to the Policy and Resources Committee are now being brought to this committee. So, I'm assuming that as members, you'll be most of you will be very familiar with this format and have seen this kind of report before. So, really, this is just to provide an update on such matters up to the 8th of January. Really, just like to pick out just a small number of highlights, if that's okay. So, first of all, the report mentions the COVID-19 vaccination centre, which is now operational at Lisnelly Avenue in Omagh. So, that centre is now it's operating from 8 a.m. till 8 p.m. 7 days a week. Outside of these hours, it will be manned by security personnel. It's been operational since the 8th of January, and a short-term lease is currently being drawn up at a peppercorn rent as recommended by Land and Property Services. The report also highlights that we've got further information in relation to the Gas to the West initiative, which we know impacts two sites, one at Fermanagh Lakeland Forum and also through the Derry Cara playing fields as well. So we do know, as the report highlights, that it had been hoped that the forum's running track would be unaffected by the works, but unfortunately it's not possible to avoid this area. Site works at the running track should be completed within a 4 to 5 week period, and during this time access to the Lakeland Forum will be unaffected. We've also got details of the proposed river crossing location, which will take place in April 2021. So members will see there's 2 appendices to the report providing more information on the COVID-19 vaccination centre and also in relation to the Gas to the West initiative. And just a final one to briefly cover there, members will see under 2.3, and there's a brief mention of it at the outset, that a request has been received from the Fermanagh Council of Trade Unions, the FCTU, seeking the upgrading of the Workers' Memorial at the Roundo in Enniskillen. FCTU has requested that a more prominent memorial be erected at this site, size approximately 1 metre high and 1 metre wide, to commemorate the 2021 Workers' Memorial Day. FCTU has asked the council to make a contribution towards the cost, and sources of funding are currently being investigated. So really, just to run through the specific recommendations through you here tonight, Chair, it's recommended that the council firstly approves entering into a short-term lease with the Department of Health and Social Care at a peppercorn rent in respect of a walk-through COVID-19 testing centre at Lisnelly Avenue, Oma, with early entry to the site from the 7th of January 2021. Secondly, approves entering into a legal agreement with SGN in respect of a river crossing involving lands at Fermanagh Lakeland Forum and the Derrycarrow playing fields in Enniskillen, with compensation to be assessed by Land and Property Services. Thirdly, to approve the request from Fermanagh Council of Trade Unions, FCTU, for the upgrading of the Workers' Memorial at the Roundo in Enniskillen, with sources of funding to be identified. Number 4, approves retrospectively use of council property at Hollyhill Car Park in Enniskillen for a mobile COVID-19 testing unit that took place on Wednesday, the 16th of December 2020. And finally, notes the use of council venues and facilities, applications submitted for a drive-in church service at Car Park beside Lisneskay Mart on the Sundays of the 6th and 20th of December 2020, just before Christmas. Thank you. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you for that, Mark. First up is Councillor Thornton.
Thank you, Chair. No, it's just on 2 of the recommendations. I'm very much pleased and, in fact, reassured about the Gas to the West, and that is the crossing, the river crossings to Fermanagh Lakeland Forum and Derrycarrow playing fields. Very much welcome, because a lot of businesses in Enniskillen have been requesting the gas to be supplied to their premises, and until we get that crossing and onto the island of Enniskillen, that cannot take place. So I'm very much welcome that, and obviously the next one on the list there, the recommendation, is the trade unions, and I very much support the memorial and funding where it can be made from available funds. So that's just the comments. I don't want to start to approve all of them, but those 2 in particular affecting Enniskillen. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Thornton. And now Councillor Fitzgerald.
Yes, I just want to second the proposals. I think with the COVID testing centre and the vaccination centre, it's brilliant news for our area. There's been a large uptake and a huge interest. I know, and chatting to people who wanted and received their appointments to get their vaccinations. They are delighted that they have now received it, very little side effects, and they actually feel more confident and more at ease. And do you know what? They're just waiting to get the second one. So it's a great initiative for our area, and it's glad to see Fermanagh Oma District Council playing a huge role in it as well. And just another thing, it would just appreciate the Department of Health actually coming to Cloma, because with the testing centre to get your COVID test, I think, is heavily utilised, and there's still people having to travel to Dungannon and Enniskillen from the Oma area. So just maybe go back to the department to hopefully get it maybe a bit more space, or well, I see it there, I see it Tate, so that's very much welcome anywhere. But so thank you. Yeah, I want to second that.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Fitzgerald. Just come back, Councillor Thornton, you were proposing the recommendations, that's correct? Councillor Thornton?
Chairman, that's correct.
Yeah, thank you. Just double checking that. Thank you. Now, Councillor Donnelly, Stephen Donnelly, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. And I'll just be quick and say that I do support the recommendations in the report, and I just want to place on record my welcoming of the fact that we do have that vaccination centre now established in Noma. Earlier today, my 98-year-old aunt had the opportunity to go and get her vaccination, and we were very appreciative of that. And hopefully this will be followed by even greater numbers across our district being able to receive that vaccination in the time ahead as we seek to begin our recovery and our escape from COVID. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Donnelly. Now, Councillor O'Coppy.
Yeah, Chair. I just want to speak on the issue of the gas, and I want to make a proposal around something I don't know if other councillors have come across it, but my understanding is that some council tenants or housing executive tenants are effectively being pressurised by the executive to, this is what I'm hearing, to take up a connection to the gas system when they don't want to. And my understanding is that this is not a requirement, although that's not the impression that's been left with tenants. So if possible, I would like to propose that the council would write to the housing executive to ensure that they don't seek in any way to pressurise residents or tenants to take up a gas connection if they don't want one. We all know gas is a fossil fuel, it's not sustainable and so on. So I'm just, that would be a proposal. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor O'Coffey. Next up, Councillor Keenan.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'll be happy to second that proposal of Donald's. And with regards to memorial at the Round O, I think it's a great idea that local workers are remembered and appreciated. And it's good to see that.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Keenan. Now, Councillor McAleer.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'd like to welcome and support the COVID testing centre in Oma, and I think it's great to see it coming to the county town of Tyrone. I would also fully support the request by the Trade Union Council, and lend my support to that. I would actually propose or call on the council to investigate whether we can contribute towards that. So I'd be happy to make that as a proposal. And I'm also happy to second Councillor O'Coffey's proposal. I would just like to have noted on record I'm supportive of most of the report here. I'm completely opposed to the installation of gas, and I have to say that the greenwashing that's actually absolutely dripping off the second appendix which we have is quite shocking. You know, even the term natural gas is very misleading. As Councillor Coffey rightly says, this is a fossil fuel. We are in the midst of a climate crisis, and this is definitely not something that the council should be promoting. Just today, as Councillor Coffey's alluded to, I'd received a call from a resident in a housing executive residence who has been informed that that's what's happening. They're getting gas, they're obliged to take it because the housing executive has said so. There's also the issue that when residents have gas installed, the work that's done to the interior of their houses, whilst pipes may be removed and flooring and not replaced, if it's along walls, or that the interior decoration, so the paint or the wallpaper, whatever is on the house, it's left to the resident themselves to replenish that. And we've seen obviously the damage that these gas installations have done to our local road network, which wasn't in great shape to begin with. So completely opposed to that. I think the gas should be staying on the ground where it belongs. I don't think it should be piping it into our towns and villages, and least of all should we be piping it near a water source. I know there's slight mention of migration of fish within the report. I don't think we should be taking that environmental risk either, so I'm fully opposed to that and happy to second Councillor O'Coffey's proposal.
Okay, thank you, Councillor McAleer. It was actually Councillor Keenan's already seconded Councillor O'Coffey's, and your first part of yours regarding the funding, that's already in the report, so there's no need for a proposal on that. So could all of the previous speakers please take their hands down, and now we'll move on to Councillor Curry.
Garvin, I couldn't see my own hand up there. It's just that in speaking to residents in the Cavan area, which is actually in our north, a lot of people probably don't realise that part of Enniskillen is. and I'm actually told that the housing executive are writing to people, yeah, but I'm definitely not getting the impression that they're being trying to be forced into it. That's just from my conversations, and I actually had a conversation as well with the housing executive on it the other day, where they're encouraging people or they're letting people know, but it's not the case that people are forced to change over. There's a lot of people who still haven't changed actually from solid fuel to oil. So that's not my experience of it.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Curry. And now finally, Councillor Smith.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I suppose I think Councillor Curry's earlier speech kind of throws up kind of what I was going to say, which is that like we generate a lot of letters out of our meetings, and I think some of them can be quite fluffy. I believe that sort of sending a letter accusing the housing executive of something which another member now has said is not their interpretation based on, quote, what I'm hearing. Like that's not good enough for a council. Like, you know, for us to make an accusation that the housing executive are forcing people to do something based on somebody up the town said it to me, like that's not good enough. And I think that we need to have a higher standard of how we work here. We need to make our letters more pointed. And I think, you know, what's inevitably going to happen is that they're going to write back. They're going to say, well, we don't force anybody. And, you know, we may as well just give a 50p to Royal Mail or put it in the big round filing cabinet. I just think there has to be a higher standard of how this council does business. And I think that's a prime example of where we're falling down.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Smith. And on them last two speakers, Councillor Coffey, do you still want to put forward your proposal?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I do, because I think it's been misinterpreted there, certainly by the last speaker, the last councillor. What I was suggesting is if this is the impression that has been left upon people, then we need to impress upon the housing executive that there should not be any degree of compulsion or perceived compulsion. It needs to be seen as something which is a voluntary decision.
Okay, that's fine,
That's the
Councillor
point I was trying to make. So
you're still proposing to write the letter to the housing executive regarding. Okay, right. So we'll in this report we have a proposed and seconded by Councillor Thornton and seconded by Councillor Fitzgerald. We're all in agreement. Okay, and then the second proposal by Councillor Coffey regarding the writing to the housing executive regarding the taking up of gas, seconded by Councillor Keenan. Are we all in agreement?
No.
No.
Yeah.
No.
No.
So we're not all in
No.
agreement. Okay. So we'll just have to go to another roll call regarding this proposal.
Chair, could I interject at this stage and make a comment?
Yes, go on ahead, Councillor Gardy. Yeah.
I appreciate that, Chair. It's just, and like to try and balance this issue. I think if the letter is worded in an appropriate manner to the housing executives and maybe asking them, is there options available to the people to whether they take gas or not, and just maybe a more generic letter rather than any accusations. No one's going to be accusing anyone. I think as Councillor Coffey outlined, that was the impression some people were getting, and Councillor Curry clearly indicated that she wasn't getting that. So it is an impression, but maybe if it is a genuine concern, a very well worded letter could go off to say to everyone, and I'm sure our officers who are very skilled at writing letters at this stage, I'm quite sure, could word it appropriately so that it was neither offensive to the housing executive or to us as a council, but address the query in hand. It's just a suggestion.
Yeah, thank you for that, Councillor Gardy. How would members feel about that?
Could Alison deal with that? Would that?
Do you want to come in, Chief Executive?
No, thank you, Chair. Well, what I would suggest on that basis, perhaps if it was framed, just that the concerns have been expressed, and maybe to clarify with the housing executive that tenants remain to have options regarding their choice of heating within their home or supply of power, and that they are not being forced to pursue any particular energy option. Maybe something along that lines, if Councillor O'Coffey was content, that we can still reflect the sentiment, but perhaps be broader in the letter itself.
I'm very content with that, Chair. Thank you.
And Councillor Keenan also.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah.
And we're all in agreement?
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you. Oh,
Sorry, Chair, can I just record my dissent, or make sure my dissent is recorded against the first issue in relation to the Gas to the West project?
No
Please,
problem at all.
Councillor
That's recorded. Councillor Baird, I see you're indicating.
Yeah, I think I was a bit slow in coming in. Look, this is another example of councillors coming forward with singular issues that they could resolve themselves by writing to the appropriate authority before coming to council. And if they don't get a reasonable answer, then that's where council should come in. But we've had examples of this in the past. I suppose the only thing about it, the councillors that are doing it wouldn't get the profile of having it raised in the media.
Okay, that's a
We're
valid
so much
point.
time in these matters. Thank you, Chair.
We've both proposed and seconded, so we're moving on now to item 6.4, to consider report on annual review on commercial waste charges, paper E. That's Mark, please.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So this report is to advise members of the annual review of all commercial charges relating to landfill waste collections, mixed dry recyclable materials that service within the blue bins, and also the organic brown bin collections. The review of charges looks at waste charges at the council civic community sites, the landfill sites, review of charges for the collection of landfill, recycling and compostable commercial bins, and the cost for the supply of wheelie bins and replacement parts. So, Chair, this is a report which will hopefully be familiar. It's something that we come forward with each year. There's a couple of key points, really. The first is that we've been advised by Her Majesty Revenue and Customs that the standard rate of landfill tax has gone up by 2.7% from the 21-22 year. So that will result in increases as outlined in the report. So there is a direct increase in costs that would be incurred by the council. The second point is that, as highlighted in the report, in reviewing the charges, we have seen some increases in the processing of recyclable materials and blue bin collection side of things. But officers recognise the importance of making sure that we continue to encourage growth in the participation of various recyclable materials. So without going through all of the various tables in the report, essentially what the proposal is that wherever we have waste material which is going to landfill, we're proposing that there will be a corresponding increase in charges that reflects the increase in the landfill tax. But where it happens to be a material that's a recyclable material meeting those environmental objectives, then the report suggests that costs for the forthcoming year 21-22 should be kept at the same level. And the recommendation of the report is to recommend that the council notes the increase in landfill tax charges and approves the scale of charges outlined in the report for inclusion in the 21-22 budget setting process by the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. And Councillor McAleer.
Thank you. It's just really one question in relation to the report that's come before us, and it's just regarding the charge for the brown bin for the 240 litre brown bin. I'm just wondering, why is that the only instance of the brown bin that actually has a charge noted against it?
Okay, do you want to come in there, Mark? Oh, John, sorry.
Hello, Chair. Yeah, there's a commercial charge is always relayed against the brown bin. On the blue bin recycling was as we thought, the most important material that we needed to encourage recycling on, and that we at all times never applied or refused to apply a price to it. And that's where I could take a little a bit further on, but there's always been that charge on it, Councillor.
That's great, thank you, John. When you're on, Councillor.
Sorry, Chair. I think the simple answer might very simply be that we've got a variety of bin sizes against the the black and the green bins in that table. As I understand it, then, John, that it is only the 240 litre bins that we actually do in brown organic material. So I think it's just because in the table that's the only size that we use. Thank you.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, absolutely, Mark. Sorry, that's more an operational point for the weight. If we provide the 360 or 660 bins, they would be too heavy to lift by the lifting gear.
Okay, thank you both, John and Mark. Councillor McAleer, when you're on, would you like to propose the recommendations?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything too controversial in there. I just wanted clarification on that, so thanks for that.
That's great, thank you. And now, Councillor Curry.
For Margaret Cairley, yeah, my is just really a question as well for clarification. It's just around the green waste, Mark or John. It's £48 a tonne, and to me that it just seems high when you look at the cost of disposal of contaminated oil, contaminated clay. I'm just wondering why that's so expensive in comparison. But otherwise happy to second it. It's just for clarification on that.
That's great. Thank you for that, Siobhan. And would John or Mark like to come in?
Again, on the organics, that price is reflective of a tendering process that we go through, and it's contracted out. On the contaminated waste, again, it's based on landfill tax costs that are experienced against ourselves, and that's why the costs are as such.
That's great. Thank you for that, John. Councillor Feely.
Thank you, Cairley. I was just looking to here the farm plastics £5 handling charge and processing. I was just wondering, is there? I know we have thought about in the skill of it now from around here for the time of change. Is it going to continue like that, or will there be any chance to get any of the smaller recycling centres taking it for people? Is it just going to continue on like that? And is the price going to stay the same, or has that gone up lately? Has that been around the same? I was just wondering,
Yeah, the handling charge will remain, and we are trying to focus primarily still through me and Gord Rush. There is consideration being given to the increase of the price by the processors. At the moment, we haven't had an increase yet, but it's potentially when a price comes going through our previous meetings, we will only levy the farmer if we are experiencing an increase.
Yeah, thank you for that, John.
Try and keep it down if we can at all, if possible. No more increase, but I know.
No problem, Councillor Feely, thank you. Okay, so that's all speakers, and it's been proposed by Councillor McAleer, seconded by Councillor Curry, and we're all in agreement. Okay, thank you. Now we'll move on to 6.5 to consider a report on NI Local Authority Collected Municipal Waste Statistics Annual Report 2019-2020, Paper F. Yep.
Thank you, Chair. So, as the report says, this is the annual report that's produced by the department. So, it came out just before Christmas, and this report presents the finalised and validated information on waste management performance for ourselves and for the Northern Ireland Council. So the report is just for information. I guess all I'd like to do is to just briefly pick out some points of notes or some highlights of that report. So throughout the report, there's a section there on dry recycling, and I know that members are very keen in terms of keeping a close eye on our recycling performance. One of the points that the report highlights is that the overall target for recycling for Northern Ireland as a whole, that pooled target is 50%. We did come in just below that as a council, so in practice we came in at 49%. Overall, Northern Ireland met its pool target, but obviously for Manor we're just slightly below that. And the report on page 6 highlights that we did have the impact of paper being diverted from our recycling rates there. So unfortunately, we did have a situation whereby our contractor was unable to make sure that some of that recyclable paper actually found a suitable end market. So we did just lose a small amount in our overall recycling performance there. Having said that, in terms of the positives, if you go back to page 4 in the report and start to look at the overall recycling performances, one of the things, as members will be aware, that we've talked about, which is really important, once we take away the green waste composting figures, one of the things we're really interested in is the blue bin dry recyclate performance. And the report highlights that actually we've done really, really well during the period. And I think we're one of the top councils in terms of dry recyclable performance, which has been a real positive. And I think we're a third overall there. Just another issue briefly of note as well. So members will undoubtedly pick up, and we've discussed it in this forum before, around the issue of the overall household landfill rate. And really just to reiterate the point raised before, that we do have a higher landfill rate, higher than of the other councils across Ireland, but there are various reasons why that's the case. So we are a council that continues to have the landfill site at Drummy, and we have an outstanding commitment to close out and complete that site. We've met our landfill diversion targets, but at the same time, we do need to just make sure that we complete the landfill site as well. And just to give members some reassurance that the current target is December 2023 for us to have that landfill site, overall, completed. And then really just another point, just to finish really, would be very mindful that we've had, the recent presentation from Zero Waste Northwest, and I know members are regularly making the points around actually what we should be about is around reducing waste and waste minimisation rather than chasing the recycling targets. And at the top of page 3 there highlights that for Manor and Oma, we've generated the smallest amount of household waste per capita at 412 kilograms. So again, not resting our laurels here, there's a long way to go, but in terms of comparing with others well, our performance actually keeping overall waste levels down is fairly good comparative performance. And then really just to finish off and pull all this together really, that members will recall, as I've talked about towards the end of the report, that we had the recent consultation by DERA on the future recycling and collection of waste. We brought that topic to committee back in September, and the committee will remember that we put a formal response in from the council in relation to that. We're hoping to get feedback from DERA in relation to that shortly, and certainly officers' view is that we will get that feedback shortly, and over coming months it is absolutely the case that we will be looking to review our overall waste management plan and strategy and start to pull together all the points that members have been making to us about where we're going as a council on the waste agenda, up the points around zero waste and heading towards those targets going forward. But the report, Chair, at this stage is really just that the information outlined is noted. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much, Mark. And now Councillor Blake.
Yeah, Chair, thanks for that, and thanks for Mark for the report. It's just proposed denoting, Chair.
That's great. Thank you very much, Councillor O'Coffey.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I can't support the report as it's coming forward. I do want to thank the officers for preparing it, and I think what it does is actually it does answer the questions that we've raised in regard to these Northern Ireland-wide statistics previously. Two things come forward really. The first is on page 7, where it's quite clearly stated that basically the fact that we are moving to incinerate is being driven by the need to comply with NILAS, targets, and to avoid NILAS charges. And I think that clearly shows that we are actually, although we incinerate probably less than any other council, I need to double check if we're maybe the second lowest or so on. We are failing to meet what it needs to be as a society to be zero waste. The incineration is not a solution anymore than landfill really is. We do need to move to a zero waste economy. On page 5, however, the issue really, I think, is the key one, which is that there's a question mark over why we aren't achieving as much biodegradable waste collection for composting. And the answer to that is actually clearly and openly stated, that we haven't got a brown bin system that apparently reaches all all parts of the council area, which I'm surprised to find out, to be honest with you. And that the cost is insurmountable to deliver on that. So really what I was wanting to propose was that we would bring forward proposals to see whether we could, what would be the cost implications of extending a brown bin collection across the constituency in relation to avoiding NILAS and the need to incinerate. So there's also there's obviously a financial and an environmental benefit if we can encourage more ratepayers and households generally to compost more of their waste upturnings. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor O'Coffey. Now, Councillor McAleer.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, the previous speakers just picked up on something that had really jumped out at me at this report. And while it's worth noting, I suppose, that overall landfill waste is down 4 or 5%, and recycling has gone up 1%. The incineration has gone up 3% or so. And as Councillor Coffey rightly says, it's in black and white there that the reason we're doing it is to avoid being charged for it. I think it's vitally important that we look at constructive and environmentally sustainable ways of dealing with our waste. So I would be more than happy to second his proposal that we investigate providing brown bins for our entire population. So I'm happy to second that proposal, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor McAleer. And now Councillor Curry.
Yeah, I and my party colleague Seamus Green has spoken on this on numerous occasions, so I would welcome some information back. It may have been provided maybe in previous mandates, but it would be good to see that, you know, just the feasibility.
Sorry, Siobhan, we lost you there.
Sorry, wandered over the mute there. It was just to say, I was saying that Councillor Green has spoken on this a number of times, and it may have been done in a previous mandate, but I think we'd welcome, you know, just to see, you know, what would the cost of extending that out across the district, the food waste collection, the brown bin in general. I do think we need to give our residents a big pat on the back, though, as Mark outlined there, and thank you, Mark, for the report and taking us through it there. We do have per capita, we are generating the lowest amount of household waste per capita of all of the council areas in the north, and we've seen a decrease of nearly 4.9%, nearly 5%. And I think we really need to thank the residents of our district. You know, that's an achievement in itself. I think we're going the right direction here. I had just a closer look at the data figures earlier, and there seems to be certain times of the year where it's peaking what we're sending for incineration, and fully expect that is, as Councillor O'Coffey said there, probably due to us trying to comply with what diversion from landfill. But I note then that we seem to be doing that as a last resort. So I just want to support what Councillor O'Coffey proposed there, but also to thank our residents of the district and thank our team there. I think we're doing well, maybe just could do better, you know.
Thank you. And while you're on, Councillor Curry, would you like to second the just a noting for information in the report itself?
Yes, that's okay. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And now Councillor Deehan.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I just really wanted to make a comment, Chair, on food waste. And as you know, we have come through the festive season, and traditionally this has been a time where people purchase more food than they can consume, and a lot of it is wasted. I wanted to ask, as a council, what measures we are taking to reduce the amount of food waste. And also I had occasion to observe food waste from retail outlets going into the bin. These, I know that many charities are involved in collecting and distributing food that is near its sell-by date. But still, what I observed was a lot of unsold food going into the bin. Now, the colour of the bin that I observed was red, and I just wanted to clarify, you know, the food waste that comes from retail outlets, is it processed separately? This would be food that would still be wrapped. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Deehan. And Councillor Keenan.
Thank you, Chair. I think I did notice that we haven't actually hit our target of 50% for the recycling. And as Donald has proposed, maybe if we did implement everything, get the brown bin, it might actually push that over the line. So I think it's a very good proposal and fully support that, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Keenan. Okay, so we have the initial noting for information, the report proposed by Councillor Blake and seconded by Councillor Curry. And we're all in agreement on that. And then the second proposal that Councillor Coffey brought forward, seconded by Councillor McAleer, to get a report on the cost of extending the brown bins. We're all in agreement with that. Take silence as we are. That's great, thank you. We'll now move on to correspondence, and there's 3 items of correspondence. I'll just hand over to Mark to take us through. I think they're all just for information and noting. Mark?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. To be honest, I think the 3 items are largely self-explanatory. So I think really just for noting, and happy to consider any issues or questions. Thank you.
Okay, so I think this hands up from previous, Councillor Blake, O'Coffey, Keenan. If you could take your hands down, please. Councillor Blake, your hand's still up. Councillor Blake. Okay, I'll move on to Councillor Swift.
Yes, Garamagat, Garvin. So I just want to speak briefly on the Drainage Council correspondence. And I note and I have been grateful for the investigation and further review that took place regarding the flooding with the big issue in the Sillis River, the most problematic river in Northern Ireland, as it's known. So anyway, what I want to say is this correspondence has offered that if we require anything further, or if we believe a virtual meeting with DFI River staff would be useful, I do think it would be useful for the purposes of informing everybody else of the matter. I have engaged with DFI officials on it, and whilst the water courses in the Sillis area are inspected on a 6-year rolling programme and maintained the following year if works are required, what also has to be considered is the management and the control of the water levels in Lough Erne, and it's largely understood and also misunderstood why the levels are set at a certain amount of feet, and it's largely to do with the legislation that's in place, firstly for the climatic conditions, and then for all the other widespread interests across the area, right from farming to indeed the water-based tourism industry. So for the boats, the water has to be at certain levels as well. Now, while the Sillis River, as everybody will probably know by this stage, has a good hydraulic gradient, there is that very low level stretch which causes the surrounding land to flood. But the big issue, which has been of recent and why I had been contacted by local constituents, the issues remain large for the farmers who obviously have their lands flooded any time that there's rainfall, but particularly in the heavy rainfall season. And regardless of the community resilience group, and the Bow people have to be commended for their high levels of resilience and how they help each other out in these difficult situation times. It's really, we want joint up approaches from all of the departments to make sure that the Bow farmers, Darragonley farmers and the farmers all impacted in that area are not going in future without compensation of their loss of livestock, the loss of food stock and winter fodder, etc., and indeed the impact that it has on the land and the surrounding areas. So I feel very strongly that in the first instance, and I would propose to accept the very kind offer of a virtual meeting as being very useful to further discuss these issues, because I don't want the departments working in silos any further on this. And thereafter, I would like a virtual meeting to be set up with the officials in conjunction with the representative community group in the area who have already expressed their concerns on behalf of everyone impacted in the area. So propose to accept the offer of the virtual meeting. Gurmagat.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Swift. And now Councillor McCloughery.
Sorry, thank you, Chair. It's the letter reference to dangerous dogs from Minister Poots.
Yeah.
I wondered.
Yeah, would you just when you're on, would you like to second Councillor Swift's just when you're on?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Yeah,
yes.
that's perfect. Thank you.
It's the Minister has passed this over. Obviously, he now says it's the Department of Justice, and it's up to them to make a decision. I was wondering if we could reference this letter which he has forwarded to the Department of Justice and the Minister, and ask would she consider having a meeting with the injured party from Ballinamallard, reference this to raise our concerns with certain aspects of serious dog attacks and why we felt the police investigation. These people are highly frustrated that they've got nowhere now. It's almost 2 years since Siobhan was attacked, and well, she knows that nothing more can be done in her case. She feels as though she wants to protect other people and at least give them some form of justice. And we appear to be banging our head against the wall. And I wonder if we wrote to the Minister, would she consider listening to the family's concerns and maybe some sort of virtual meeting?
Sorry to cut across you, Councillor McCloughery, but I think that may possibly have Ray, but I'll bring in Chief Executive.
Chair, thank you. My recollection is that we have undertaken just the course of action that Councillor McCloughery has suggested. But if he was content that we, and specifically it was, now it wasn't just the Minister of Justice, I do think it was also the Dara Minister to meet with the injured party. But maybe if Councillor McCloughery is content that we check that, and if we haven't done it, that we would certainly extend the correspondence as proposed, Chair.
Are you happy enough, Councillor McCloughery?
Yes, thank you.
That's great, thank you. Now Councillor Feely.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I was coming in on 7.2 on the letter to the same as Bernice there.
Yeah, we're great.
I was going to second Bernice's proposal there, but it's John has seconded. I couldn't agree more. I agree with everything Bernice has said there. That with the handling with the farmers up there and get a few calls from people in Bow as well, the same as Bernice there. Probably not as much as Bernice, but a few people about, and agree with her about the farmers should be compensated. But and fair play to Bernice that on the Danish board she done good work on it there before Councillor Siobhan Curry's on it now. So it's just kind of proposing that, seeing Siobhan is our new rep on the Drainage Council, could raise the possibility or looking for a feasibility report into providing support for the retrofitting properties in the Sillis catchment area, with sustainable drainage systems and stuff. The Sillis highlights that flooding is a catchment-wide issue, not just an area for the area flooding, but it's all over. It's good it's good that we've recognised this on our LDB as well lately with the Danish Council, you know, about the suds and that. So I'd just like that, and we could bring it up with the River Agency as well as what Bernice has said. I just want to agree with that. I just want to make that proposal, Siobhan, and do that as a new rep on the Danish Council as well. Okay, Gavin.
Thank you, Councillor Feely. Councillor McAleer.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate we're kind of jumping backwards and forwards between letters here, but again, it's in relation to the 17.2 in the Drainage Council. Although I suppose it's not my electoral area, I wouldn't be as sort of appreciative of the letter as previous speakers have been. I note in particular the bottom paragraph on the first page where they talk about establishing a community resilience group, and indeed that they want to help residents be more resilient to the impacts of flooding. Now, other than giving them houseboats or teaching them how to swim, I don't know how you become more resilient to the impacts of flooding. It seems that the paragraph before that they're dismissing any potential aspect of help or assistance to these families. So I would not be supportive of either noting or supporting that letter. I think it's probably good to have a meeting and suggest that, but I think just the quality of the letter and the content of it just really isn't good enough, and I would imagine it would fall far below what many of the people in that area would be requesting and would be hoping for. So I'd just like to place that on record. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. We'll note that your dissent to that. Okay, Councillor Armstrong, please.
Thank you, Chair. It's on 7.1, just to second noting that as in support of Councillor McCloughery. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Donnelly. Sean Donnelly.
Thank you, Chair. Just going back to Councillor Swift's proposal there regarding the letter to the Drainage Board regarding the virtual meeting. Now, I would like to ask, is that just for dealing with that specific issue that was in the letter, or is it just for dealing with issues in Tyrone Fermanagh or Oman Fermanagh district? Because I have had problems with the Drainage Council since first being elected in 2011 regarding farmers and damage done to property. So I would like to think that I could bring up issues a bit regarding that. Is it quite possible in the virtual meeting? Thank you, Chair.
Just find it out for you now, Councillor Donnelly. Do you want to come in?
Yeah, no, Chair, just to say, I think Councillor Swift's proposal was in the context of the letter received, but obviously we could, if Councillor Swift is content, advise that members may wish to raise other related issues at such a meeting for consideration by the Drainage Council. I suppose at the back of the correspondence has been very specific to date, which is why they have followed up on it, Chair.
Thank you. Would you be happy enough, Councillor Swift, with that?
Yes, certainly, but the Sillis River issue will be first on the agenda, and once all of that's thrashed out. And Garvin, if you would just allow me to come back as well, just on Councillor McAleer's comments, because I don't want negativity going out. And just to assure Councillor McAleer, we've been working, and me personally have been working on this issue, you know, since I began the council, 15 years ago now or more. And it is unfortunate, a proposal that I had made in conjunction with the entire community did not receive approval from the then Agricultural Minister, as it wasn't deemed economically viable. Now, my whole business case did receive high marks, and it reached the level of the Drainage Council for consideration, but thereafter the money wasn't, well, supposedly not in the department, and that was the reason why then we had to look at alternative, I suppose, situations. And I suppose that the fact that I know the resilience group, and I've said this before, it's not fair to expect us to be resilient all the time. That's why I've asked for that the farmers are most definitely considered. So just because I would know, and that's okay, when people obviously haven't been in the council beforehand. I'm sure everybody else is sick listening to me talking about this issue, but just in the absence of that knowledge, that the flooding task force was set up thereafter as, I suppose, the reasons then to help sort out the problems. But again, it falls short, but we're living in the whole climatic changes, so we have to do what we can. And if there's no investment coming from central government to Bow, that's certainly not Bernice Swift's fault, and it's certainly not without any slackness on behalf of anybody in the Legacy Council or the current council indeed. But yes, Sean Donnelly's more than welcome to come in on my agenda. I'll gladly help out his area too.
Thank you, Bernice.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Bernice. And now Councillor O'Coffey.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I was going to speak on the dangerous dog legislation, but I'd just like to add in my opposition to that outrageous letter and the idea that people have to get resilient to the fact that, a refusal to expend money to prevent flooding is just too costly or something like that.
Okay,
I think it's unacceptable. But in terms of the dangerous dog legislation, this letter is an outrage, really. The minister... Minister Poots refuses to agree to a strengthening of the legislation around dog attacks, and it then seeks to basically pass the parcel over to the Minister for Justice when it's his own department who has responsibility. And obviously we are looking for this to be passed to the PSNI, but he doesn't offer any opinion as to whether that should happen or not. So he basically says this, just raise it with the minister. So yet again, we get a response from a minister who fails to engage with what we're talking about, just flatly refuses to consider the need to improve protections for residents, children and whatever from dangerous dog attacks. And these are becoming all too common, it seems, at this time. So I'm just... I want to add my voice to the concerns about this letter. It's dismal. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you for that. And now, Councillor McCaffrey.
Apologies, Chair. Hand was up in error.
No problem. Thank you, Councillor Erskine.
Yeah, thanks, Chair, for letting me in. I just want to come back there on a point that Councillor O'Coffey raised there in terms of Minister Poots's letter. I don't know what letter he's reading, but I do note that he says he appreciates the seriousness of the issue, and I'm not going to have it go out publicly that he's not in any way believing that this is a serious issue. But indeed, it is the Department of Justice who is responsible for setting the law and the regulations in terms of this. There would be no point in the minister trying to do that whenever it is the remit of another department. Hence why it's important we get a response from the Minister of Justice on this issue. The importance is the people who have actually had these attacks made against them, and it is a very serious issue, but I just think I can't let that go unchallenged. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Erskine. And that is now Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly.
Thanks, Kevin. There, I just want to second Anthony's proposal there if it hasn't already been done so.
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, so that's all speakers on that issue. And just before I'm going to take all of them together at one proposal, but just before that, is there any interest in the 7.3 taking up a place? Is there any interest in that before I move on? Is that Councillor Curry looking in?
Yes, Garvin, it's just a question really around it. I know, I just note that places on it, there's a cost associated with it for anyone. I think it's outside the Belfast area. I'm just wondering if our community planning team, in conjunction with the PHA, and that's what was done in the Belfast area, could possibly run one for our local area. That I'm just wondering, would that be more cost effective, and that way we could invite community and voluntary sector and other interested bodies in our district to it. Maybe a
Yeah.
No, Chair, very happy for us to explore the potential of that. I mean, I suppose the other thing, webinars generally would have a relatively low cost as well. So I think that's very useful. We can certainly explore the potential of that locally, Chair.
Happy to second, Chair, if you need a seconder.
That's perfect. Thank you, Councillor Garrity. And now, just for the entire correspondence, all three pieces, could you get a proposer and seconder to note them?
Propose Garvin.
Proposed Councillor
Seconded, Councillor Thompson.
Seconded by Councillor Thompson. That's great. Thank you very much. And there is no...
Sorry, Chair, just could I register my dissent in relation to 17.1 as well there, as well as 17.2, please?
Okay, no problem at all. Thank you
Mine
for
too,
that.
well, Chair.
No problem. Thank you. Okay, now, there's no other correspondence, so we'll just move back now to item 4, or item 5 rather, matters arising on the 2nd of December 2020. So we'll just go through it page by page. So page 1, just before I start, all previous speakers, could you take your hands down please before I start? Councillor Curry, Councillor Donnelly, Councillor Feely, and I think Councillor Catherine Kelly, yours has been up for... Okay. Page 1. Page 2. Page 3. Page 4. Okay, Councillor McAleer.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's just in relation on page 4. It's the 5th bullet point down, and there's just a reference there to planting a native tree species. But it says, however, in settings such as the Grange Park and Fort Hill Park, non-native trees could be replaced as part of the Heritage and Traditional Park Scheme. I know we had quite a lengthy discussion about this last time. I'm just wondering, like, that, I suppose that wasn't my recollection of what was agreed, but I'm just wondering for clarity on that. I would be hoping that we would be prioritising the planting of native trees as opposed to non-native ones.
Yeah, I think that's not actually the adopted record. Is that correct, Chief Executive?
So, Chair, yes, it is formally adopted now as the accurate record, but my understanding, and I'm mindful Stephen is on the line, that the, I suppose, council position always has been that where it is feasible to do so and preferred, that we would be prioritising native species.
Yeah, if I could get in there, please, Chair. Steve can confirm that. Yes, what Alison is saying, at that meeting it was agreed that it would be amended to native species only. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you for that, Stephen. Now we'll move on to page 5.
Sorry, Chair, just in relation to that then, do we, because that's been recorded as an accurate minute, do we need to make a proposal to counter that at this stage, or?
No, Chair, we would just note this correspondence, conversation in the minute of the action note of this evening's meeting and in the minute of this meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay, now page 6. Page 7. Page 8. Page 8, Councillor McAleer.
Sorry, Chair, it was actually page 6 there, and it was just very briefly on the use of pesticides. And again, I suppose this is quite a topical one, given that the British government has currently reintroduced a pesticide that was banned by the EU, and I suppose it was pledged at that time that it was going to be banned and kept in place after leaving the European Union. However, I suppose a few days after Brexit, they have again gone back on their word. So this now, I'll try and pronounce this: neonic otanoid thiamethoxine is one that's very deadly to bees, and I suppose that's one we've been promoting, the protection of bees and protection of pollinators throughout our council. So I suppose, just given the fact that this has now been introduced in England, I would like to see that it's not going to be introduced or accepted here, and especially within the council area. I think the move from DEFRA is one that's really ultimately unacceptable, and given, I suppose, the dwindling insect population, they've decreased in 50% in the last 75 years, and that we've lost 1/3 of our bee population over the last 10 years. I think it's a very worrying development. So we would like to see that as a council, we wouldn't be introducing or promoting that particular type of pesticide going forward. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you for them. They will be noted as same as before, Councillor McAleer. Now back to page 8. Page 9. Page 10. Page Councillor McElduff.
Hi, Chair. On page 10, reference to rural roads and rural roads budget. Is that okay if I deal with an issue there now? I'll take it out of the urgent.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair. Last night we had a good run at it. You know, the subject of gritting. You know, it's a big, big issue. Keeping winter traffic on the move in our communities is a big issue, and it's not just about the state of the roads or vehicles. It's about people. Ultimately, it's about people. It's about keeping people on the move. Carers, for example. So I would make a proposal, Chair, that we have an informal meeting as a council with DFA roads, with DERA, the Department of Agriculture, and their rural division or whatever, possibly farming unions, UFU and NIAPA, and organisations like the Fermanagh Trust and Forum. And the purpose of this would be to try to devise a better way, a better community solution for gritting in rural communities. I'll touch on more urban settlements just in a second, but I think there should be an informal meeting, because I would like to table a suggestion or a proposal that farmers are brought into play, are brought into the equation, as they are with snow clearance. Farmers tender for contracts to help keep the roads clear of snow, but in the removal of ice, gritting, etc., they are not deployed. And it's a proposal that I would like to explore with the council and with other relevant bodies. And then a second matter then, last night we talked about grit piles, we talked about the quality of grit, the amount of grit, salt bins, the criteria, 1,500 vehicles per day. I think there's a memorandum of understanding between DFI roads and the council regarding footways in our towns and villages. So maybe just to seek clarity on that, but I would like to propose that we have an informal coming together of those agencies aimed at exploring a better solution for our areas. And I mean, if we don't stand up for rural communities, for Fermanagh and Omagh District Council, who will? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that, Councillor McElduff. Councillor McCaffrey, you coming in to second that?
Yes, I am indeed happy to second the proposal by Councillor McElduff, and I agree with the sentiments he has expressed there. So I just think that the Department of DERA, the Department of Agriculture, Environment and Rural Affairs, maybe are neglecting that last part of their remit, rural affairs. I think that they should be brought into the equation also. Gormagat.
Thank you. I'll just bring the Chief Executive in now.
Thank you, Chair. It's just a very brief comment. As members will be aware from our discussion last night, DFI have advised that they're reconsidering their approach to engagement with councils. So while we can certainly progress this as a matter of urgency, Chair, subject to the council approval, it is possible DFI will not participate in such a meeting.
Okay, thank you for that. Now, Councillor Kelly, Catherine Kelly.
Yeah, thanks for letting me in, Garvin. I was going to second Barry's proposal there, but Chris got in before me. But just very briefly, we need to do better with the rural roads, not only in the condition of the rural roads, but in the gritting and helping people to get out of their homes, to get about their daily lives. In the past weeks, when there's ice on the roads, I have constituents that can't get about their daily business. So we have to do better as a council on our rural roads.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Kelly. And now Councillor O'Coffey.
Chair, yeah. I entirely agree with the sentiments behind what Councillor McElduff is raising. However, I just wanted to raise a concern that this should not become an excuse for anyone in Stormont to advance privatization, outsourcing, or tax on workers' rights within the road service, because we've had experiences within the last few years of road workers having to go out on strike to defend themselves and defend the service. This service, the problem here is not that we need to see it outsourced to anyone. We need to see more resources. That's what the problem is here. It's just not being properly resourced. So if the road service is given the resources it needs to properly maintain the roads, then it'll happen. But if it isn't, we'll end up going down the race to the bottom route, the Boris Johnson route, which is to outsource this or to get this group or that group to do every bit of work that should have been done by the road service to a higher standard, fully resourced, properly and safely done. So I just think it's important to put that caveat. Certainly not, I don't anticipate I'm saying anything that others would necessarily disagree with, but I think it's important that we state it a priori at this stage. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Coffey. Councillor Green.
Thank you, Chair. Just on that last point of Donald's, I would agree with him to a certain degree, but like I live in a quite a mountainous area, and I have never seen road service unless we're completely snowed in, ever making any effort to clear the roads around me. Any time that they've ever been cleared, this is going back to I was knee high to the grasshopper. It has been farmers that has went out and done it, and dug out when road service and all has never even bothered to appear. So no harm, but I think if there's some solution to it where farmers actually are contracted to clear the Lexham roads. Last week was a case in point where I was getting inundated, and I'm sure Garvin, you were too, and all councillors locally, about the Knox Road, the Cairn Rock Road, the Union Road. All of them was the sheets of ice on it, and no sign of road service, no grid lines, no nothing, and it was farmers that was out trying to get the roads cleared. And in fact, I know one particular farmer who every year goes out and clears the road, maybe 3 mile long of a road, and out of his the goodness of his heart, clears the road, grits the road from a link box and shovel. And I think last year he got that fed up with having to do it every year, maybe 3 or 4 times a year. He actually sent them in a bill, road service, and actually never even had the decency to reply to the man. So I would fully agree with Barry's proposal.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Green. And Councillor Clark.
Garvin, thank you very much. You know, I know we complained last night about the road service didn't put out grit the last storm there, but I think they're, in fairness, you know, okay, and maybe it's too late, but they are now putting it out, I think, from the day on in this area. So at least they have listened. So well, that has to be welcomed.
Yeah, thank you for that, Councillor Clark. Now, Councillor Donnelly. Sean.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to support Barry and his proposal, because as a rural councillor, I have come for a lot of criticism about the shape of the roads. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And finally, Councillor Feely.
Yeah, not going to go over everything you said. Totally agree with everybody who says that. I think we'll get it on the agenda for the next agricultural liaison group meeting, and we'll have a discussion about it as well. It's a great idea, and just to be chat about it there as well.
Okay, I see there's a few speakers have just highlighting to put in previous. But we do have the proposal by Councillor McAuliffe and Councillor McCaffrey, and I think we're all in agreement. Is that correct?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, so we'll move on to the rest of matters arising. Page 11. Councillor Curry, looking in page 11.
It was just on that last point, Caherly. It just to confirm that the rural roads there is on the agenda for the rearranged meeting with the minister.
That's great. Thank you for clearing that up. Thank you, Councillor Curry. Page 11, page 12, page 13, page 14. Councillor McAleer.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it's page 14 and it's in relation to the one at the top of the page there, 6.2. And I'd raised that concern about the tree felling at Pat Kirk's. Now, I appreciate the director hasn't got back to me just yet, so I appreciate we've had Christmas and that, and it may be something that needed to be followed up on, so I'm looking forward to receiving a response on that. But I'm also have to raise a query in relation to the Glen Cam Road at the junction with Castleview Court, which has also seen a massive amount of tree felling in that particular area. It seems to have cleared a whole section of roadway. So I'm wondering, just further to that request, could I also request that information be provided on that particular area as well, please, Chair?
Yeah, that's fine, Councillor McAleer. And finally, page 15. Did he get a proposer and seconder?
Sorry, Chair, just I think Councillor O'Coffey's had his hand up there. Apologies.
I think that was up from previous. It was up from previous. Okay, so don't need a proposer and seconder, so that's that item dealt with. And now I'll just move on to any other relevant business. And I was contacted by 2 members, so I'll take Councillor McElduff first, but you've covered one of your points, I think.
I have indeed. Thank you, Gavin, for the way you handled that. Thank you. My issue that I'm going to raise now is the whole issue of, and it's recurrent, dog fouling, right? A councillor from County Antrim made a statement today about it, and about how pervasive the problem is in and around Glenavy, for example. And I find myself agreeing with him and saying that in Omagh, it is a huge issue as well. We've talked about this previously. We've talked about the need for a campaign to raise awareness. But whatever campaign is taking place seems to lack effect. And it's a major problem. Say, for example, you were to take the Riverside Walk in Omagh, and say you were to walk there in the evening, you'd come out your footwear and your clothes would come out very dirty indeed. Todd's Field Play Area, Hamlet Road. Now, I know the dog wardens are very determined to find out, for example, what dog owner is responsible for allowing this to happen. They really follow it up well, and they do their best, and they have addresses and chips and dogs and all these things now for to find out. But at the same time, it seems to be lacking effect. Now, I would propose that we embark on a major campaign, including awareness raising and also consultation with NILGA regarding other councils and other areas who may or may not be adopting effective measures at this time to reduce the problem of dog fouling. Now, we all know the dangers it can cause, the eye disease, just dizziness, everything, if one was to get that, for example, on their person or in their eye. So I'll leave it at that. I'm proposing that the council embark on a major campaign of raising awareness and talking to other councils, perhaps through NILGA, about measures that they have taken to tackle this problem. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that, Councillor McAuliffe. And could we get a seconder for that, please?
Chair, I think I have my hand up there.
Yeah, I was just going to let speakers in that are looking to raise something, but I'll let you in a second, Councillor Erskine, if you'd like.
Yeah, I had my hand up there just after Councillor McElduff, because I'm in full agreement with him, because this is an issue not just in Omagh, it's across the district, and indeed in Cash. I know of a little girl who picked up dog poo. I mean, that's a real health and safety risk. The issue I just wanted to raise in relation to that, if Councillor McElduff is content, is in relation to there's technology and different equipment. Can we look at that as well in terms of what's out there in terms of equipment and technology that can be used to deal with this issue as well? If Councillor McElduff is content to add that as well as part of his proposal.
So you'll second it also, Deborah?
Yeah, I'm happy
Yeah.
to second it.
Yeah, you happy with that, Councillor McElduff?
I very much so thank Councillor Erskine for her contribution. Thank you.
Okay, that's perfect. Okay, so that's that item dealt with. I'm moving on to the second member who contacted me, Councillor Curry.
Charlie, yeah, for allowing me in on this. It's around the Roscoe bridge, Roscoe viaduct there, and there was recently brilliant work carried out there by the bridges section, and I really would like to put on record our thanks to Johnny Graham, who was keeping us updated throughout those works. A great job on the bridge, and they've done their best with providing a more durable covering and improvements on sound. There's a wee bit more work to do. It's weather dependent though, so that's going to be done in spring. But Chair, it's just I'd been in contact with the department with the bridges section, an update on a feasibility study that they were carrying out around the reconstruction really of the Roscoe viaduct, and for members who might not be aware, the viaduct was damaged during the conflict, and the Bailey Bridge has been in its place ever since. On a section of the bridge. Now the feasibility report is coming out now early this year, but it's unlikely that the funding will be available to cover the that. This is the only bridge that was damaged during the conflict that hasn't been replaced. With Wadahalane and various other border crossings. This isn't right on the border, and that may be why it's a victim of it. But I would just like to propose, Chair, that our members who sit on the ICBAN board, if they could actually raise this and try in an aim to identify potential other funding. Other funding did come from the special European, it was the Peace and Reconciliation funding for the other crossings. So just if we could explore options, and also if I could propose that our own officers on the council could also maybe just do a bit of scoping work to see if there would be other funding that we could avail of just to progress that for the future. A long-term sustainable solution is required. The Bailey Bridge is having to be replaced, quite a bit. Hopefully this time it might last a wee bit longer, but it won't be the sustainable solution we need.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Curry. And Councillor Feely, you coming in to second that proposal?
Yeah, I just want to second Siobhan there and praise your man Johnny Graham as well for going out to an on-site meeting one during the time they're working on it, and extremely bad weather got on it, but they never missed a day and stuck at it and made a great job of it. But as Siobhan says, only temporary. The last time it was done, it only lasted about 9 years, he was telling us. So just like to second up a proposal.
Okay, that's perfect. That's proposed and second. I'll just bring in the Chief Executive now.
Yeah, Chair, just I'm mindful this is something that was raised last night, but if Councillor Curry would be content in terms of funding opportunities, maybe it would be appropriate to make representations regarding the shared island funding, because it sounds to be exactly the sort of infrastructure sort of project that fund had previously highlighted it would have an interest in supporting.
Yes, Gurmagat, thank you for that, Alison. Yes, any and all, if whatever's available. Yes, that sounds like it takes the boxes for that one.
Okay, so that is that item now dealt with. I'll now move on to confidential business. Could I get a proposal and second to go into committee, please?
Proposed, Anthony.
Proposed by Councillor Feely. Can I get a seconder?
Councillor Donnelly.
Seconded by Councillor Donnelly. Okay. We need to pause the recording, is that correct? Okay, that's us now. I'll just go to Chief Executive for a round up.
Thank you, Chair. Just to advise, while in committee, members considered the matters arising for the committee meeting on the 2nd of December 2020, and there were no matters arising from that meeting, and also considered an update report on the disposal of surplus lands and agreed the recommended course of action.
Thank you for that, Chief Executive, and that is all business concluded. I just vote for, sorry, proposer and seconder, proposed by Councillor Deehan. Seconder, please.
Seconded, Chair. Councillor Garrity.
Thank you, Councillor Garrity. And that is all of that dealt with, and I'll bring this meeting to a close at 21:46. Thank you all very much.
Thanks, Chair.
Good night, all.
Well done.
Good, Garvin.
I don't.